Battlefield 6 can feel really overwhelming if you have never played a Battlefield game before, or if you maybe just haven't played one in many years. What class should I play? What are training paths? Why does it look like my teammate flying the helicopter just cannonballed an entire bottle of Jaeger? All of these questions and more will be answered in my ultimate beginner's guide to Battlefield 6, which we'll jump into right now. Feel free to skip ahead to any of the following chapters if you want to learn about a particular topic right away. But starting off with Battlefield 6 in a nutshell. Although there is a campaign mode which you can jump into if single-player combat is your bag, most people these days pick up Battlefield not just because they like multiplayer, but because they like large-scale multiplayer. While there are many different game types you can try out, with some featuring smaller maps and slightly fewer players, the most popular game types feature big-ass maps and up to 64 players. It is basically big team battle from Halo on crack with larger maps, more people, and insane vehicle combat, which we'll get to shortly. For the Conquest game type, which is probably the flagship mode if you were wondering for the Battlefield franchise as a whole, scoring works in the following way. You and the enemy both start off with 1,000 points, which are essentially how many respawns your team has remaining. Every time you kill an enemy player and that player respawns, the enemy team loses 1 point. The first team that drops down to 0 points remaining will lose the game. You might also notice that there are many capture zones all over the battlefield. The more zones your team has control over, the more the enemy score will go down every time you kill an enemy player. Therefore, while slaying out and staying alive is important, you also want to make sure that your team is playing the objective and working together to capture and hold zones as much as you can. It's important to note that the enemy score will actually not go down if the player you shot and downed gets revived back into combat. And on that note, why don't we talk about how revives and squads work. When you launch into a game of Conquest, you'll notice that not only are you on a team of 32 players, but you're also in a squad made up of 4 players total. That isn't just Battlefield trying to add a splash of cool flair to the game, but squads actually serve a purpose. You see, you get downed in combat, you don't auto respawn right away. You have a death timer that will activate, which you can actually slow down and extend by essentially calling for help. If a member of your 4-player squad is nearby, no matter what class they are, they can run over to your body and drag you to safety, reviving you in the process. Be aware though, you can only revive members of your 4-player squad in that fashion, so it's usually a good idea to stay relatively near members of your squad. The only class in the game capable of reviving downed players outside of your 4-player squad is the support class, which we'll cover shortly. They have the ability to revive any downed player on the team via the defibrillator, which is an incredibly handy piece of equipment. Anyway, if you've been downed and there is no member of your squad nearby to drag you around and you're relatively confident you won't be revived by a nearby support player, you can hold the respawn button and auto die so you can respawn somewhere else. Again though, I recommend not getting into the habit of auto mashing the die and revive button, because there's always the chance that a support player is lurking somewhere nearby you can't see and is just itching to revive you. Also, something to keep in mind when being revived. Seems to be the case that as long as you don't die too fast after being revived by a teammate, you can seemingly go down a never-ending amount of times. I tested this with a friend in a private lobby. It seems the magic number is about 5 seconds, give or take. Meaning if you get downed, then get revived by a teammate, if at least 5 seconds go by before you get downed again, then you have the ability to be revived again. But if you get revived and then go down again before 5 or so seconds go by, then the game will not allow you to get revived again and you'll have to fully respawn. Which brings us to respawning. Respawning in Battlefield is actually really great compared to other shooter games IMO, because you have a lot of choice on where exactly you can respawn. You will always have the option of spawning back at your team's HQ, aka your team's kind of main base area, or if your team has captured zones on the map, you have the option of clicking on and spawning directly at one of those captured zones. Be careful though, because if that zone is being attacked by the enemy, you may end up spawning and getting killed right away, but that is the risk you take. As we've talked about, you'll also be a member of a 4-player squad in Battlefield, and you have the option to spawn directly on top of a squad mate, provided they aren't taking damage or being shot at. You'll see them on the map as a green option. Another option you should 100% be aware of as a new player is that you have the ability to respawn directly into into any available vehicle, either one at your base or even one already in use by a teammate. You might not be able to respawn into the driver's seat if a teammate is driving the vehicle already, but you could respawn into the passenger or gunner seat. Either way, when you die, try to read the room and maybe figure out where the best place you can respawn is at that current moment. There are 4 playable classes in Battlefield 6, which we'll go over now. First up, we have the Assault class. The TLDR for Assault is you're the frontline run and gunner. If you enjoy fast, boots on the ground style combat and doing well at both mid and close range, you should start here. Whereas the other 3 classes only get access really kind of to 2 weapons, basically a primary and secondary, the Assault class is allowed to wield more. Your starting third weapon option is a shotgun, which is ridiculously effective in close range combat, good lord. As long as you're somewhat accurate, the M87A1 shotgun can one-tap enemies from pretty respectable range, and even more so if you eventually unlock the slug round attachment. The Assault class also gets access to other interesting options, including an Assault ladder, which you can use in combat to get to higher ground easier, which can come in handy on maps featuring a lot of buildings and alleyways. You also got things like grenade launchers, again designed for close range combat and trying to clear out annoying enemy players camping behind cover. The Assault class also has unique intrinsic bonuses that make them more efficient at being a frontline run and gunner. For example, you get faster draw time when using assault rifles, and you can fire sooner when exiting a sprint. You also get faster progress with objectives, including arming and disarming explosives. Your training paths, aka additional class enhancement options that improve how each class plays, are either the Breacher option or the Frontliner option. The Breacher path features handy abilities like reduced movement speed penalty when firing your gun while moving, and even being able to carry an additional grenade. Meanwhile, the Frontliner path has passive abilities that lean into keeping yourself a bit healthier and being able to spread around your adrenaline effect with teammates who choose to spawn on top of you. To summarize, the Assault class is for when you're in the mood to lead the charge into enemy territory and gun down enemy soldiers who might be there with respectable mid and close range weapons. Next up, the Engineer class. The TLDR for the Engineer is you got 2 main jobs. Job number 1, make friendly vehicles healthy. Job number 2, make enemy vehicles dead. Because some of the vehicles in Battlefield are insanely lethal and annoying, the Engineer is a very important class, and you'll often find yourself getting stomped on by tanks and helicopters if the Engineers are flat out not doing their jobs. Regarding job number 1, making friendly vehicles healthy, the Engineer gets access to the incredibly important repair tool. Basically a blowtorch. If you notice that a friendly teammate vehicle is taking damage, you can literally just spray it point blank with the repair tool and the health meter will go up over time. Most times this will happen when you're on foot, but in some cases you can literally repair the vehicle as you're riding along inside it, which is very handy. You might want to get into the habit of riding alongside of a teammate who is raining down death on the enemy team in a vehicle, just so you're ready to hop out and patch up the tank or vehicle at a moment's notice. Or you could be the one piloting your own vehicle, and again, you could hop out and patch up your own vehicle at a moment's notice if you take a little bit of damage. You may also want to get into the habit of respawning directly on top of any teammate who is currently using a vehicle to make sure that they don't die. Regarding job number 2, whereas the Assault player's third weapon option by default is a shotgun, your default third weapon option is a rocket launcher whose primary function is for destroying vehicles. I will repeat, your rocket launcher can damage enemy infantry, but this is not Call of Duty. It is not good at doing that, and doing so is borderline wasteful. Your main goal when wielding a rocket launcher is to try and flatten the enemy tank, jet, or helicopter to make sure your team doesn't get pounded. However, here's where things get a bit tricky. When you're just starting out, the launcher you're given will either strictly be anti-tank or anti-air. Translation, you need to choose one or the other. The MBT Law rocket launcher will allow you to lock onto and damage ground vehicles, while the SLM-93A will allow you to lock onto and damage flying vehicles. Keep in mind though that when you're respawning in the middle of a game, you can change rocket launchers on the fly if you need to. For training paths, you'll start off with the anti-armor path, which features abilities that help you be more efficient at taking out vehicles. But you can also unlock Combat Engineer, which leans more into keeping your own team's vehicles a little bit healthier. To summarize, if you don't want to be pestered by enemy vehicles or support your own team's vehicles, try starting out as an Engineer, a very underappreciated role. Next up, we have the Support class, aka the Medic. The TLDR for Support support class is Revive, Revive, frickin' Revive. Yeah, the medic has other handy abilities and gadgets that we will get to, but if you're really not sure what to do when first starting out in Battlefield, the support class is relatively easy to use and always beneficial to the team. As mentioned earlier in the section of the video where we talked about squads and reviving, if you're on a squad, you can always revive players on your own squad, no matter what class you are, by dragging them around and reviving them back into combat. If you're playing support though, you can use the defibrillator to instantly revive any downed player on your team, whether they're on your 4-player squad or not. Here's a weird tip: when using the defibrillator, be sure to charge them up by holding down the button first and then hitting a downed player after it has fully charged. If you revive a player with a full defib charge, then that player will get up with full health. But if you just tap the defib button as fast as you can with no preemptive charge up on the paddles, they'll still get revived, but with up to half health only. Granted, even if you don't charge your defibs, the player will eventually recover their health up to full anyway. But yeah, better to revive a player with more health as opposed to less health. Again, there are other handy gadgets the support player can use. Anti-grenade gadgets, a portable mortar, even a missile intercept system, which is great. Starting out though, the defib is both easy to use and very beneficial to your team. Can't go wrong. Support players also get access to the very important supply bag, which when dropped will slowly and automatically resupply all nearby teammates with full ammo for both their regular weapons and gadgets, meaning that if any engineers are nearby, you can use the supply bag to help them get more rocket launcher ammo, which is incredible. For your training paths, the combat medic path mostly focuses on better healing, which is handy if you're using a gadget that is not the defib paddles. But eventually you can unlock fire support, which offers things like steadier aim from a mounted position, being more resistant to explosives when shooting while prone or from a mounted position, and faster ammo resupply from the supply bag. The final class is Recon. The TLDR for the Recon player is you're a long-range support player. Yes, you can use the sniper rifle slightly better than the other classes, but also you can help your teammates in very valuable ways from the backfield. Don't get too hung up on the sniping thing. Like how, Fallout? What other valuable ways can you help from the backfield? So glad that you asked, dude. Before we even get to sniping, why don't we talk about the default Recon gadget, the laser designator. Remember earlier when talking about the engineering class that I mentioned their starting rocket launchers can only lock onto either vehicles on the ground or vehicles in the air? Well, if you have a Recon player on the team, they can use the laser designator to paint a target, which you can do by just looking at a vehicle with the gadget for a few seconds. When the vehicle becomes painted, it can now be targeted faster and from further away than normal by rocket launchers, and best of all, even if your engineer has a rocket that can normally only lock onto flying vehicles, it can now lock onto ground vehicles with that same launcher, provided the target has been painted. In short, the laser designator makes the engineer's job of locking onto and killing vehicles way easier, and in my opinion is a hugely awesome starting gadget that more new players should know about. And while any class in the game can use a sniper if they wish, the Recon is slightly better at doing so. Their class features reduced weapon sway, quicker rechambering between shots, and better breath control. If you don't know what that is, when ADSing a sniper in Battlefield, you have the option to hold your breath for a slightly steadier shot. Remember that if you wish to snipe in Battlefield, your shots are projectile, not hit scan, meaning that bullets have travel time. Also, bullets will eventually kind of trail off and get pulled down by gravity the further they go. All of that just means that you might have to get into the habit of slightly leading your targets depending on how far away from you they are. Sniping in Battlefield can be very challenging for beginners, but very rewarding when you begin to improve. Remember, you can also snipe enemy pilots out of vehicles and cars, depending on the vehicle, which is not always recommended. It's very hard to do, but incredibly fun to attempt, and the payoff is huge. The default training path is the sniper path, which gives benefits focused on what else? Sniping enemies. For example, enemies you put down with headshots straight up cannot be revived. The second path is Spec Ops, which focuses more on being harder for the enemy to detect and on being able to spot enemy gadgets easier. And on that note, we get to how to unlock new training paths. Many new players may just want to hop into the game, use their default loadouts, and go, which is fine. But if you want to unlock a new training path for whatever class, you'll have to unlock it through completing unique challenges for each class. These new challenges don't become available to players until they are at least level 20. As you can see at the time of me recording this clip, over in the top right corner, if you're at level 19, which I am here, these challenges are are not yet open to you. But completing challenges can unlock things like unique skins and, more importantly, the alternate training paths for each class. Therefore, when you reach level 20, be sure to start paying attention to how much progress you've made on each challenge so you can begin to unlock different training paths. Alright, why don't we talk about vehicle combat? And starting things off, we'll keep things simple and begin with ground vehicles. Driving in jeeps and tanks and whatnot is, in my opinion, fairly intuitive and should not cause too many problems for newer players. You should know that while all vehicles are very destructive, they technically each have unique intended uses. For example, the main battle tank, or MBT, is designed to be used as anti-vehicle, while the infantry fighting vehicle, or IFV, is designed to be anti-soldier. Most vehicles in the game also come with more than one weapon. Take a look in the bottom right-hand corner of your HUD when driving a vehicle to see what your other weapon options are. The MBT has two different guns that you can either swap back and forth between if you're riding in the tank solo, but if a teammate decides to get into the tank with you, you'll be controlling one gun and they will control the other. If you're interested in learning more about what each weapon on your tank or land vehicle does, you can customize the options the same way you can with your in-game classes by clicking on the Vehicles button over here in the menu. I highly recommend new players take a few minutes to browse through what each vehicle brings to the table so you don't feel like a massive fish out of water when hopping into a vehicle for the first time. Also, if you're having trouble with or want to adjust the controls of how you operate ground vehicles, you can go to the cog in the top right corner of the in-game menu. Then if you're on controller, hit controller, then edit settings, then control settings under the ground vehicles section. If you're on mouse and keyboard, again, click the cog in the top right-hand corner, then click mouse and keyboard, and then click edit control settings under the vehicles section. Although I don't think you'll need to, as ground vehicle operation is IMO more intuitive than air vehicle combat, which brings us to air vehicle combat. I am telling you right now that if this is your first time playing a Battlefield game, there is a high chance that the first time you get into a helicopter, or especially a jet, that you are going to do no better than a thumbless drunk toddler. As a matter of fact, you may crash out a few times, and I don't just mean flying into the ground. One joystick inverted in one direction and the other joystick is inverted in the other direction. I'm just crashing. I don't care. Like, that is horrible. That's how planes work. I don't play games like this for realism. It's a video game. I play games like this for fun and escape.
Spot on me. Spot on.
In all honesty, I may need to make an entirely separate guide solely dedicated to flying jets. In short, though, not only are there controls for making the jet fly upwards or fly downwards, which the game controls refer to as pitch up and pitch down, you've also got the controls for making the jet turn left or turn to the right, which the game controls refer to as yaw left and yaw right. But you also have controls for making the jet spin, so to speak, aka roll left or roll right. This can all be incredibly confusing to a new player, and again, it will likely take you several tries or more to get to the point where you feel comfortable enough to just keep the damn thing in the air, let alone engage with the enemy. The settings you'll likely need to make up your mind right away on are going to be whether you want to invert your flight controls or not, aka if you move your mouse or controller joystick up, do you want that to make your jet go up or down? These are decisions that only you can answer for yourself because everybody is different. For helicopter flying, I immediately noticed a huge difference the minute I went into the settings and turned on helicopter control assist, which will enable your helicopter to automatically hover at its current height when you don't press any input at all. Your veteran buddies may tease you a little bit for using this, as it's kind of a training wheels mode for helicopter flying, but I really don't give a fuck. It makes chopper flying way more enjoyable in my opinion, and I highly recommend you turn that setting on if you are a new player. One very important thing you should know when flying a jet or chopper is that you have defensive weapons that you will 100% eventually need to activate when an enemy engineer decides to lock onto you with a rocket launcher. The game will tell you when you're being locked onto with a launcher, and then when you see that a missile is officially incoming on your jet, you can then hit the button to deploy flares, which will confuse and ward off the rocket. It's important to be patient and not deploy your flares right away. Don't panic and wait until the game tells you that you're actually being shot at, not just locked onto. Like the ground vehicles, if you want to learn more about what each chopper and jet is designed to do, go to the customized vehicle section of the loadout menu and begin to learn. Moving on, custom loadouts, weapon stats, how to level up, and weapon attachments. From the loadout screen, click on any class, then click on any weapon. If you hit C on the keyboard or press down on the right joystick if you're on controller, the game will show you additional weapon stats other than the default, including ADS time, your reload time, and more. By hitting the Modify button and then the Customize button, you can fiddle with unique weapon attachments that each do different things. For example, my M433 assault rifle currently has on a suppressor, which, as the game tells us, makes it harder for the enemy players to spot me at the cost of hipfire accuracy. You can customize your weapon however you want, but remember, you can't fully deck out a weapon with unlimited attachments. Check out the top left corner. The game is telling me I'm currently at 100 out of 100 on this weapon. That means my weapon is unable to receive any additional attachments. See how my suppressor has a 20 on it? That means it is basically costing me 20 points to have that particular attachment equipped. If I take the suppressor off, my overall number goes down to 80 out of 100, and I can potentially put on a different attachment somewhere else on the gun worth up to 20 points. Weapon attachments are unlocked the more you use a particular weapon, so if you find a weapon you really like and want to get all the attachments, you got to start using that weapon a lot. In order to unlock new weapons, you usually have to level up your overall rank. As you can see, I'll eventually unlock this AK-4D assault rifle by hitting rank 35. Other weapons like the Cord 6P67 assault rifle are unlocked through completing specific assignments, which, as we mentioned earlier in the video, are unique in-game challenges that require doing specific things like inflicting 10,000 damage with assault rifles and so on. Again, make sure you're always working on your in-game challenges when you can. Eventually, I might make a video on the best overall XP farming methods, but the safest bet for guaranteed XP is to play the game, capture zones, get kills, and complete matches. As we come to the end, I'd like to ask that if you're a veteran player watching this video, leave your best tip down in the comment section for new players out there. I'll start with 2. 1. When dead, don't always mash the revive button. You'll slow down the "you're dying" meter, and unless you're miles away from combat, a support player might be nearby. And 2. Remember, you can and should feel free to change classes mid-match depending on what your team needs. Are your team's vehicles getting flattened? Well, maybe swap to an engineer. Nobody on your team doing any enemy vehicle painting? Maybe change over to Recon and hit them with a laser designator. Team complaining they're not getting enough revives? Maybe go support. Get comfortable with every class and play what feels right in the moment. Leave your best tip down below, and please hit the like button if today's video helps you in any way. Thank you very much for watching. Peace.